Yeah. So by the way, we're rolling. Might as well.
I see it.
Sweet.
But so what I was going to say on that is not that we need to have a produced video, but do it kind of like how I just do my show, where I've got a canned intro, right? But like more just give the audience like a, hey, who are we? What is this called? What are we doing?
Right.
Yep.
Something like the inaugural episode of 3 Guys, 1 Grain. These are the 3 guys, and the 1 grain is not here yet.
Yeah. The 1 grain is not here yet. The 1 grain is all around us, Jerm.
Absolutely. There's 1 grain and 1 grain only.
The 1 grain is the grain that's in all whiskey, whether you like it or not. Like asterisks, almost all whiskeys, right? You've got malted barley in there, and some enterprising people throughout the let's say centuries have decided to make whiskey entirely with 100% malted barley. And we're here to talk about that. And specifically, we're here to talk about that as done in the United States of America.
Right.
American Single Malt Whiskey.
Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and say, what are we drinking, right? Because we all kind of talked about this, and I have something in my fancy glass. My fancy glass. It is a little light, as you might know. So American Single Malt, obviously, but
it's very honey colored.
I guess I'll go first. I'm the Texas boy of the group, so I am drinking Balcones Mirador Eclipse.
Nice.
And it's almost gone. I've sampled this out way too much. This is
all right. One of you, send me like an ounce of that. I so badly want to try it.
I got it, Randall. I got it.
Oh, you got a little more. So this was fermented with red wine and rosé wine yeast. And so it's really cool. And they did this for the stupid eclipse that came through right over Texas. 55% alcohol. So really nice proof. And like I said, I haven't sipped on this thing for probably 5 months. So,
Okay.
Hey, by the way, I just realized my Single Malt Frontier logo is still on the video. Do we want to kill that?
You can, or not.
I can send you mine real quick, and then Randall can send you his. We can just rotate it around.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. This is going to go in all our feeds, so it doesn't matter. But yeah,
exactly.
Send me your logos. I'll rotate it out.
So, Randall, you brought up Balcones. Are you planning on speaking to the news of Balcones? Is that the idea here?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Am I doing that now? Are we just jumping into it?
No. Let's get through. What are we drinking first?
Yeah, let's get through the drinks.
Let's keep it.
What are we sipping
first?
What are we sipping?
Yeah.
All right.
So, all right.
I selected 3 bottles to have just on hand, ready to pour. The Eclipse was actually the Balcones that I picked.
All right. Well, as long as we're talking about
if you're drinking that one, you're going to go with Catalina. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a Balcones, but I will do a different one from those 2. I think that's an appropriate gesture.
You know, one of the things I love about Balcones packaging is they use the real cork that's not reconstituted cork.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, on the downside of that is if you don't turn your bottles every so often, that type of cork really likes to stick.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that this doesn't break on me. I haven't opened this in like a year. I think the last time I opened this bottle was when Jerm and I did the live after the American Single Malt ratification.
Wow.
This is
I
one of
can
those
tell
bottles
you,
that
I have never had a Balcones cork break. Never.
Okay.
Not one.
Well,
and I've had the same bottle of Balcones that I open kind of regularly for at least 4 years now. So
this is one of my special occasion bottles that like really I never get into unless it's a special occasion.
Okay. And then I chose the Loch Lomond bottling of Gentle Giant.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Gentle Giant. It is Balcones, but it's a single cask. It is their single malt finished in a peated whiskey cask, which the cask was their single malt.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Awesome.
Did any of you guys have the tequila cask one? I missed that one.
The big blue.
No, the Lost Lantern Balcones
single malt.
Oh, no.
Yeah, single malt finished in a tequila cask. They did that one. You know what? I don't have that one. I did get to try it. Somebody I know has it. I don't remember.
I think it was like one of the really early ones, like 2021. And by the way, shout out to Lost Lantern. I actually I was using my pre-show prep to get those back on my shelf behind me because I took them all out to do a big. I have 29 unique bottles of Lost Lantern, and I did a big, basically bowling pin style shot because I started with the vatted malt, which was that was basically my introduction to American Single Malt, the American vatted malt, and then Balcones on the same night, an OB Balcones, and then there was the McCarthy's that came after that, and then I bought more the next year, and I bought more the next year, and now I'm in the Discovery Club, so it really is a bowling pin shape. It
absolutely.
I get more and more every year. I get more bottles than the last year.
I bought a separate cabinet just for Lost Lantern.
Yeah, I see that off to your left.
I was going to be good, right? Cabinet. No. If they send me any more bourbon, I'm not going to be able to keep it on the cabinet because I separated the shelves, like bourbon, single malt, rye, and then their cream labels or their special.
Right.
Yep. They actually reorganized my bottles so that everything up there, it's very brown now instead of the colorful blue, green, because I put all my single malts in front.
Yep.
For tonight, for this.
I think, Doug, you brought this up probably unknowingly, but I think this is a good place to go since this is the inaugural episode of the Three Guys, One Grain. You said vatted malt was your introduction into American Single Malt. I think that's a good place to jump off and just kind of talk about, your first experience with ASM. Why did you choose to go that route? What did you think about it when you first tried it? If you didn't, like if it wasn't a dedicated decision, and why so supportive of the category?
Yeah. Well, I'll start since I'm the one with a podcast dedicated to the category. So actually it was kind of an accident that I discovered the vatted malt. I didn't know about Lost Lantern. What happened was I went to a Scotch group meetup. So my local Scotch group, which it was either the first or the second meetup I went to with these folks, because this was it was just coming off the pandemic and I had met some of these folks and it was like, okay, we'll do some swaps or whatever, but we don't want to get everybody together into a big room because COVID. So we'll just swap for now. And then we had this big party basically where everyone had bought stuff at auctions, had bought stuff at online, whatever, all the cool stuff that they'd gotten since the shutdown until, and it was still pandemic-ish, right? It was like March 2021 when we got together. So pretty early in my like whiskey review journey, of like, I started out reviewing whiskey because it was a pandemic hobby. It was something that I'd always been interested in reviewing whiskey. I started with what I knew, which was Wild Turkey. Tried a couple of other bourbons around the same price point, kind of going like, is Wild Turkey really the best I could do for this money? And I tried some other categories. I tried Irish. I tried Scotch again. Scotch I had bounced off of years earlier because it was like either really expensive Macallan or dirt cheap Dewar's White Label. And so my impression of Scotch was it's either crazy expensive or bad. And there is no in between, which given those two examples, sure. But like I was short-sighted. Right. And on the flip side, what? I didn't actually hear that. Your mic is not catching.
No, I don't really want it to catch it. I said they're both bad.
Yeah. So I discovered Japanese whiskey, and that was where my love of single malt started. I went to Japan 2015, and I had heard Yamazaki 12 was this great thing. It was $60 at the time. I actually spent my last day in Japan. We'd been in Japan for arguably too long. It was 23 days, 10 days. The last 10 days of the trip was Tokyo. This was just our summer break trip. We're just like, we're going to stay as long as we can stay, and we'll figure it out. We'll do everything that we can do. We traveled all across the country. And then we went to like every single neighborhood in Tokyo. And the last day in Tokyo, we like had nothing left to do. And I was like, you know what? I really want to go. That was my first time ever hunting for a bottle of whiskey because Yamazaki 12 was popular enough at that point that it was sold out almost everywhere. but it was still $60. So when I found it, I actually found it. I gave up, and we had a little bit more shopping that my wife wanted to do. And the very next store we went to, not even a whiskey store, had it. And so I bought it. And that was also my first experience with, so I tasted it also while we were in Japan, and I really liked it. And I thought, like, hey, for $60, this gets you an incredible whiskey. Yamazaki 12 also used to be better than it is now. That's my hot take, right? Yamazaki has gotten both more expensive and less good in just 10 years.
Yeah.
I think a lot of whiskeys have gone that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is the ultra long-winded version of this, but this is how I found Single Malt. That also became the bottle that was like put up on a pedestal, like, oh, this is a special bottle that we're never going to drink. Yeah. Basically, until it's like a special occasion. It's going to be my wedding or something. That bottle got lost in a flood. So I also experienced my first loss of a special whiskey because of Single Malt. And so, like, at this point, Single Malt feels like this special thing that's been kind of, in a way, put up on a pedestal, but also like, I never want that to happen again. I want to enjoy this thing. But it's so expensive. You go out to a bar, everybody else is drinking beer, you're going to buy whiskey for twice as much. And what are you going to do? Like, whiskey, you either do a shot or you sip it for like a really long time. It just doesn't fit into beer and cocktails.
No,
it's a totally different thing. So I just never did it until the pandemic came along. And I'm like, all right, I'm finally going to do it. I'm interested in it, but I don't know anything about it. I'm going to figure out as much as I can. And like, Scotch was the obvious, like, Japanese whiskey was too expensive at that point. So Scotch was the obvious place to go. And then somewhere along the way, I found out American Single Malt was a thing. Actually, it was Joseph O'Sullivan via a Discord. I was talking to him about McCarthy's. I hadn't tried McCarthy's at this point in time, but I found out about American Single Malt. And I met Joe, and like, that was sort of my first connection into the industry. And then this bottle of vatted malt showed up at a party, and then a bottle of Balcones right next to it showed up at a party. And I loved this because it sort of blended, like, those expressions blended my initial love of bourbon that, like, my love of bourbon's gotten left behind, let's be honest, right? But I did initially really love bourbon, and then I loved Single Malt. And I found this thing that sort of felt like a spiritual marriage of the two, and it just hooked me. And so, you know, that it was vatted malt number one. It was Balcones. I think it was a single barrel. And then I went out to the store and I got a McCarthy's. And so, like, I feel like, in a way, I got like the absolute best of the category, like, boom, 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 right as soon as I got introduced to it. So, like, there was no downside from my perspective. It was, this is a great whiskey from a brand I've never heard of. This is a great whiskey from a brand. I'm from Texas. Like, I lived half my life in Texas. So, you know, Balcones is from Texas, and that resonates with me. And then there's this guy that I met on the internet who's a distiller, and we're kind of friends now, and his whiskey is amazing. Like, from my perspective, I mean, Joe is kind of a hot shot, but from my perspective, Joe was a random guy I met on the internet who made incredible whiskey. Right. And so, like, if I could essentially randomly get 3 amazing malts, like, the whole category must be amazing, right? And everybody needs to know about it. Nobody's talking about it enough. And so I decided I wanted to write a book. There's a yada 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 in there, right? As much as I like to yap, there's some yada yadas in here. I decided I wanted to write a book, so I needed to interview people. When I started interviewing people, I said, I need a place to put these interviews until the book is done. So I made a podcast, and here we are. Excellent. Sorry for the extra long.
So I have 2 things before you start, Randall, because you're going to go next here.
Okay.
2 things. Doug starts off by saying this is the long-winded version. I don't know if Doug has any other version than the
he does not.
Version. And 2, I feel like on this whole podcast thing, we are going to need a pause Doug button. And
yeah.
Just gonna have to click that button every now and then. Just
you're allowed.
Just to shut him up for a second.
Tell me to shut up. I need someone else to be the admin on this thing to hit mute on my mic.
Yeah.
Realistically, Doug, that's a wonderful story. A really, like, yes, it was long-winded, but I mean, you can't just come in and say, I randomly found these 3 whiskeys and met this guy online, and now I love it. I mean, you can't just say that, because
right.
It doesn't, right.
You've got to contextualize it. Yeah.
So, Randall, American Single Malt.
You said there was a second thing, or that was the same thing. That was the second thing. Sorry, go ahead, Randall.
He's cutting into mine already. You see how it's going? Okay, so my story's a little bit different. I've been enjoying whiskey for a long time. It was not good whiskey, obviously, and I decided I wanted to try Scotch, of course, like everybody does. So I didn't just try any Scotch. I went straight for Lefroy because I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the smokiest thing at that time, the smokiest thing I know. And I had tried it at a bar or restaurant one time, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then I was drinking, Crown and Coke and, Jameson and things like that, but nothing really, neat, let's just say. And so I started drinking Scotch neat, and I was like, wow, that's weird. And kind of got into it. And the first time I really got into American Single Malt was actually, it was either one of two. It was either Stranahan's, old Stranahan. So it might have even been sourced. We can't talk about that. Anyway, it was either Stranahan's or maybe the very beginning of Balcones. The very beginning when they were first started with Chip Tate, type Balcones. And so I started it, and I was like, okay, this is cool because, like you said, it's a mishmash between bourbon and Scotch, right? It just kind of they use new oak. It's very dominant in its grain profile and all those things. So it really sung to me. And then I fell in love with Texas whiskey as well. And I, then got to go meet Moose at Andalusia, or this was actually before Moose had even started. Went to Andalusia and got to talk to them at their 1-year anniversary, and got to talk to those people and try their very young single malts, American single malts. They just called them single malts back there. Then they weren't even American single malts, and got to try them. And there was like, yeah, this is going to be good in a couple of years, and then, then just kind of rolled into that. And now American Single Malt is my favorite category. Now, obviously, I do have a podcast and I talk to everybody. I this weekend releasing a podcast with Two Stack from Ireland. I get it. Like, there's other whiskey out there, but American Single Malt has had my heart because, well, for one, I get to meet cool people like you guys. And I know that's a dumb thing to say, but it's not, because I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for you guys. And so the relationships that you build in the whiskey community through a spirit, especially American Single Malt, has given me quite a bit on this front. And it has enhanced my palate tenfold, especially with doing the blind sample showdown and all of those things. Like, it has just made me a better whiskey lover. And I seek out all of these American Single Malts from anybody you can get your hands on. And we're going to talk about a couple of them tonight, obviously. And I just can't wait for the new release that everybody's talking about. And, the issue is, obviously, you can't get every release, because when you do, you don't have the room for it. Like you're saying, you don't have the shelf space. I'm never going to drink that many bottles. So it's like, what do? You sample it out, you give it to people, you enhance the whiskey community. But yeah, that's kind of where I got started.
Excellent.
Yeah, that stuff about community, absolutely. The community is
100%.
huge, right? This wouldn't be here without community.
That is one of the best things about whiskey for me is the community. I absolutely love the community. I've met some of the best friends that I have through whiskey and the whiskey community. I meet more every day, and it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. But as far as American Single Malt for me, so I started drinking whiskey 2018-ish. I had been drinking whiskey for a while before that, but we're talking Jack Daniel's, Jameson. Yeah. Those are the two that I bought, right? I would drink them on the rocks. I would drink them with Coke. I would drink them with ginger ale, so on and so forth. And in about 2018, as I'm going in to buy more of the same 2 bottles that I buy every time, right? I'm looking, I'm like, there is 100 different bottles here. 100 different bottles here. And they can't all taste the same, right? Mm-hmm. It can't be the same. Obviously, I know Jameson and Jack Daniel's are very different from each other, right? I like Jameson with ginger ale. I like Jack Daniel's with Coke. So obviously, some of these other ones have to change. So here starts my whiskey journey, right? Irish whiskey is where I started. I bought every Irish whiskey that was in the store. Obviously, I liked a few. I didn't like a few.
Now we have a new background too. So.
And it was very quick. I mean, it was like, I'm talking 3 months. I had 40 bottles of Irish whiskey, different Irish.
Oh, wow.
I enjoyed Irish whiskey, but I got to the point where there wasn't anything different in the store anymore. When I went in, I had all of them, right? So then I'm like, okay, well, everybody's talking about this bourbon stuff. Let's try this bourbon stuff. So I start going down the bourbon road. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. But I've noticed I've got 10 bottles of bourbon. They're all tasting very, very similar. Yes, there's differences, but I mean, for the most part, they all taste pretty much the same. And I'm like, okay, well, what about this rye whiskey stuff? I get into rye whiskey. I fell in love with rye whiskey very quickly. And then I got to the point there again where I had every bottle of rye whiskey that was available to me in town here, right at the store. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess now it's time for Scotch. I bought a bottle of Glenlivet 12 and Glenfiddich 12. I like the Glenlivet way better than the Glenfiddich. I was in that camp. But I mean, my first sip of that stuff, it was like the sky folded open, the light shined down and reflected off the glass. It was magical, right? Like I'm like, okay, this right here, this is it for me. So I started buying single malts in that $60 to $80 range, single malts. And I'm very happy with what I'm getting. And about mid 2019, we're at now, I start hearing about this single malt that's coming from America. And I'm like, all right, well, let's give this a shot. So I started looking into things. I think Stranahan's, Balcones, what were a couple of the other ones? Cedar Ridge was one of them. These are my very early American single malts. And I quickly became like, okay, I can see where this category really can fit in. It can take a guy that likes bourbon and change him into being able to enjoy a single malt. Not necessarily that's what I'm switching to. However, I can now enjoy a single malt. I appreciate what we get. And I can also see it going from the other way, the diehard single malt Scotch fans going, okay, America has a place in this game. And this was very early in the single malt, kind of like what we know now as kind of where the revolution started. Obviously, not early in American single malt as a whole, because learning things about American single malt, you learned that back in 1996, the very first one was released. So, I mean, this isn't like a new category.
No.
It's just newly getting traction.
Yep.
Lots of distilleries came online, and I'm like, these are all small, family-owned craft distillers. I love this. And not all of them are, but the majority of them were. And actually, all of them probably started that way and got popular enough to where that went the other route. But that was another thing to me. Support the small guys, the craft distilling, the people that put their life's work into making what I'm drinking and enjoying. And it shows in the glass when the passion is on the manufacturing end. And that solidified American single malt for me. So I did the same. I didn't start a podcast, but I tried the YouTube channel thing. I went with the Freedom Malts because, America, freedom.
Yep. When I saw your username for the first time, I was so jealous. Like, God damn, that's such a good name.
It is. It really is.
I should have probably gone to marketing instead of auto technician. But somebody said to me one time, put 500 bottles of whiskey behind you or put 50 bottles of whiskey behind you and put a camera in front of you and start talking about it. So that's what happened. Now I got 500 behind me and a camera in front of me. And
yep. I've got 400-ish behind me in the cabinets and whatnot. Yeah, it's I never wanted it to be this way. I had to explain this to my parents at some point, and I was like, look, I need you to understand that the 400 bottles is not the hobby. The whiskey is not the hobby. The hobby is the podcast, and some portion of this is a direct side effect of the podcast, as opposed to like, don't, my advice to the people watching this who say, oh, I want to look like that. Not that we look cool. We don't look cool.
Yeah, we're not cool.
Don't think I want to look like those guys. I should go out and buy 100, 200, 300 bottles of whiskey. No, don't do that. This was financially irresponsible. I will never consume all this liquid by myself. I need lots and lots of help from a community that I can't reach, because I'm the only person in my circles that likes American Single Malt as much as I do, which is a damn shame. And that's why we go on the internet and we shout it from the rooftops, because more people need to care more about this.
That's
Absolutely.
Right.
Don't do this. This is irresponsible.
Yeah, it's very irresponsible. I also I give most of this away. I don't drink a lot of it.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, you're doing a better job at giving it away than I've managed, and I wish that I had such a clever idea as to find 32 strangers on the internet and give 3 ounces of whiskey every 2 months away to that many people.
Yeah,
like even that would make a huge dent in what's behind me. So like I said before, I actually mean it.
6 ounces every show, every season.
Wow.
186 ounces.
If you want to pivot, like you want to pivot the next round of this season of Blind Sample Showdown to somebody else's collection, allow me.
Hey,
I've got some cool scotch over here too. It's mostly below the camera line.
How dare you put baby in a corner?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's all about the sharing, right? And it's about the sharing and the caring and but also, like, that just goes to show American Single Malt has so much to give, and there's so much out there, and it's so different than what we were drinking. And there's so much nuance and complexity to it. Like, just sitting here sipping the Mirador Eclipse, like, there's so much complexity there to where, like, and I understand people that like bourbon, they like bourbon for a reason, and they love that cherry vanilla, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like, with the complexity that is in this glass, and this is just me tonight, and obviously taste is subjective, all the things, like, it is so broad, and there's so many things you can pick up on an American Single Malt that I feel like the bandwidth on it is way wider than a bourbon or even an Irish, or even some of these other ones that are they stay in their lane and they do that thing the right way. American Single Malt, you can get the spiciest American Single Malt in the world, and then you can get the lightest one right next to it. And it's just really amazing to see what people are doing with American Single Malt.
Yeah. I'm going to challenge the Irish comment, though. I think Jerm's going to be with me on this, because Jerm went through dozens of Irish whiskeys first.
I love Irish whiskey still to this day.
And in my Discord community, the Whiskey Lodge, which is not it's the one I hang out in, but it's not mine, to be clear. It's where I send all the traffic, because I don't have the bandwidth to run my own Discord. Come on. But there's a guy in there who also loves Irish whiskey, and he's plugged into all the craft Irish whiskey, and he's got a couple of ways of, like, a couple of subscription programs that let him get access to the craft Irish whiskey. So he's not getting Middleton again and again and again, right? Yes. Not like, Jameson and Powers and whatever. And even like some of the other ones that aren't Middleton that have branched out a little bit, like, it's still samey. It's that triple distilled, super light. Sometimes we'll put it in a fun cask. But you're missing out on what, like, a lot of people look at, that, like, that heavy, robust, meaty, oily body that you get from Scotch. There's Irish whiskey that does that too. And I'm not talking about just the stuff that has the peated or turfed, as they like to say, Irish whiskey. You've also got the likes of Culloden, where Culloden has just said, screw the mash bills. We're going to make it with the old recipes, and we're going to make whiskey that tastes goddamn delicious using the old recipes, the old ways. We're going to put peated oats in it, because why the hell not? Like, Brendan Cardy is a genius.
Yes, he is.
And the fact that Joseph O'Sullivan and Brendan Cardy are big fans of each other tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Like, people tell me all the time, I don't like Irish whiskey. It's too this, it's too that, it's too that. Listen,
talking about
first
Jameson.
of all, First of all, you have to change your mindset when you go. I mean, and these are malt lovers telling me this, like malt whiskey. You have to change your mindset. We're going from that double distillation leaves a ton of oil in that liquid. The triple distillation removes a lot of that oil. You need to just realize that you're not going to get that robust maltiness out of it. It's going to be delicate. It's going to be light. But if you can change your mindset before you go into that, knowing this, you're going to have a good experience. It is very nuanced. It is very floral, delicate, bright, fruity, all of those things that you love about Scotch that are just robust in flavor. Irish does that too. It's just a little quieter.
Yep. And honestly, there's room for that. And I think I had a certain way of thinking about whiskey when I was really into Scotch. That was part of the yada, yada, yada I glossed over. I was really into Scotch before I got into American Single Malt. You get into this mindset of, I like my whiskey a certain way, and Scotch is that way. The thing that Scotch tends to do, or the thing that Irish tends to do, or the thing that bourbon tends to do. And you just gravitate towards that center.
Yep.
But American Single Malt is so broad. And when I made a study out of it, like, there will be weeks where I'll get multiple things in the mail from people where it just wants, like, every single thing that I open up and try is a whole brand new, like, I didn't know whiskey could taste like that. And one of those weeks was I had a Stranahan's and I had a Single Cask Nation VDC. It was my first taste of VDC. Okay. And I think it was something else that was new to me at that time. It might have been Oak and Grist or something along those lines. And we have a bottle of that recently from Lost Lantern. So that's cool. These things they taste completely different from each other, right? There's almost no similarity between a peated, McCarthy's or even a peated Balcones and that light fruity style that VDC does. By the way, we talked about Balcones right away, but my actual warm up dram was the VDC,
the Hardy Red,
the gingerbread stout cask. Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
It's seasonal, right? This feels seasonally appropriate. I got this last year, but this feels seasonally appropriate. So that's why I'm drinking this. And also, like, we can't talk about American Single Malt all up and not bring up VDC for numerous reasons. One of which is that, and this will come up in our news segment as well, with the industry having a little bit of trouble right now and consumers having less disposable income, having a brand that puts out a banger of a $45, $50 bottle consistently, right? VDC, they've got a $30 bottle, they've got like three $35 bottles, and then they've got these brewer coalitions at $40, $45, $50. Like, VDC almost has like the majority of bottles under $55 in American Single Malt, and they're all amazing. And they just keep doing it again and again.
I was going to say, since you brought that up, American Single Malt as a category is, in my opinion, if you look at it just on a statistical point of view, it's expensive. They're generally younger whiskeys. They're generally, I mean, let's look at one distillery that makes a single malt, a bourbon, and a rye. If you look at their three whiskeys, the bourbon's going to be cheap, 30, 35, well, we'll say $50.
Do you have a distillery in mind, or are you just speaking generically?
I'm just in general. I don't have one in mind. Their rye probably $55, $60, right? Really close, but maybe a little bit more because it is harder to work with. And then single malt, $75. So I mean, there's a considerable jump. In those.
Well, okay, let's name one. I mean, I could think of a few that do at least bourbon and single malt. You've got Boulder does bourbon and single malt. Cedar Ridge does bourbon and single malt, but they also make rye. I don't know if they OB release their own rye, but Lost Lantern has released a rye from Cedar Ridge. And Minden Mill has American Single Malt, bourbon, and rye.
And Oregon Spirit Distillers, they do all of the things, and their single malt is like almost twice as much as their bourbon. And I understand, but at the same time, it's malt, you know, you're not having to mash 14 different grains, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I mean, it's a more expensive grain to work with. It's a more expensive grain to buy. It's, you know, when you're talking about, let's make a bourbon, you go out, you buy yellow dent number 2 corn, right? And you spend, you know, what I don't even know what the pricing is on it, but let's just say it's $10 a bushel for yellow dent number 2. And you can fill a couple barrels with whatever you buy, you know, for a fairly inexpensive amount, plus your time, plus equipment, plus you'd have a pretty low entry level cost for the bourbon that you just made. Now, malt, on the other hand, can you buy a commodity malt?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
You probably can. In what would it be? It wouldn't be Golden Promise. It would be
distiller's malt.
Yeah. I mean, the malt itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But brewer's malt is probably as close as you're going to get to commodity.
Brewer's malt, that'd be another one. Yep. Pale malt, stuff like that. Okay. But you're buying something that's way more expensive than $10 a bushel. Yeah. If that's what corn was, if that's what yellow dent 2 was, you're probably talking $50 a bushel now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that cost has to come through at the final product. Can you make it cheaper? Sure, you can. But that means your quantity has to go, your output has to go way the hell up.
Yep.
So, and a lot of small craft distilleries can't do that kind of output.
No.
Yeah. And it always makes you wonder when they do come in at a pretty relatively inexpensive cost. So just to make the point, I'm gonna share my screen here. This window is probably too big. But can you see that? I don't know if you can see here. I'll make it bigger. So you can see if you go to Minden Mill and you put one of each in your cart.
Yep.
The single malt comes out at $59.99. Call it $60. The rye and the bourbon are both $45.
$45.
So
that's a $15 jump from a bourbon, which most people already know they like bourbon, right? In America.
Yep.
That's where I think American Single Malt struggles in the highest place, right? Because we know as Americans, we like bourbon, you know, that's America's spirit, blah, 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 right? Well, why would I spend $15 more per bottle on something I don't know if I like?
Right.
When I know I can get something that I like for $15 less. Well, that, I guess the at that point in time, it's are you ready to explore or are you not ready to explore?
Right. Well, and that kind of turns into our job, the whiskey person, of getting out there and doing exactly what we're doing here tonight and showcasing, like a lot of other brands do, showcasing American Single Malt and saying, this is a thing. You need to go try this. Not everybody's going to like it. I get it. Not everybody likes that grain forwardness of it, or the weird, you know, like with the Mirador Eclipse, it does have like a umami note to it that some people aren't going to like, you know.
Right.
I get it, but at the same time, drinking your grandpappy's whiskey, I mean, yeah, it gets the job done if you're just trying to get drunk. But if you're trying to explore whiskey and understand it like we are, then you want to go in there and find something new and different. And that's why we accumulate the bottles we do, is because we're like, hey, I've never tried that. Let me try that one. And then you just like, okay, I like that one. So I might, you know, it's kind of like Netflix. You might also like this, you know, so, and it turns into a kind of an obsession of sorts sometimes, where you're like, I have to have, because my second dram of the night that I was going to open. Now, this is a sample that I made for somebody else. The bottle's in the house. I don't keep bottles in the shed. It's still 85 degrees in the shed. So this is the Westland American Single Malt single cast strength, because I'm bougie. This is the finished in Pinot de Charente barrels. This is Take whiskey, single barrel pick, 7 years, 51.5. And that's the thing. I love Pinot de Charente barrels. And so I seek them out whenever I can find them. I don't care if it's Iron Root Republic or Westland. I'm looking for that profile because I like it. The same with Sauternes and, you know, other ones as well.
And to your point, at one point in time, you tried a whiskey in a Pinot de France barrel, and like, oh, I really like this. And chances are, you probably had a whiskey from that same distillery that wasn't in that barrel.
Right.
You're like, oh, I like what that did to this whiskey. I wonder, and your mind says, I see Iron Root, which is a wildly different distillery and type of whiskey than whatever you're talking about.
Right.
They did a Pinot de France. I wonder what that did to their spirit. And you go down that road. And yes, same way for me. Sautern's one of my favorite.
Absolutely.
I have a couple rare ones that don't get used very often. And it's like a Malmsey Madeira, one of my favorite finishes that I've ever had. But I have seen one whiskey finished in a Malmsey Madeira, right? So if I ever see another one, yes, 100%, I will buy it. I don't even care what it is, right?
Yeah, I think so. Sautern, all over the Scotch market. It was like almost a trend for a while. I don't think it was like super new, like all at once, the way that Amberana was like all at once. Everybody did it, but like Sautern came on the scene, everybody loved it, everybody did more of it, people kind of got tired of it, it tapered off, and then Tokai came up. And Tokai is basically Sautern but from Hungary. And in my opinion, based on, I've tried the wines, I've tried a few Sautern and I've tried a couple of Tokai, and Tokai to me is better. And I think it also, I'm probably with the right whiskey, but so far I've only had it with what I would consider to be the right whiskeys. Tokai comes out really nicely. And well, we're going to talk about Westward some more later also, but like actually Westward did both. Westward has their quarterly club has put out a Sautern and has put out a Tokai. Between the two, I actually think the Sautern was better. Okay. But in general, whenever I've had a Tokai cask whiskey, I just think that's a phenomenal thing. The Cedar Ridge Tokai cask is one of the best whiskeys. I think one of the best whiskeys I've ever had.
Yeah. Real nice. All right. Do we want to get into some news?
Yeah, I think we should get into some news.
I think so. We got 42 minutes of
banter.
Banter. Yeah, us babbling on. 23 of those were Doug.
No. I checked the time. We were at less than 15 minutes when I was done. So, and only part of that was me talking.
How did we? So wait a minute. We're under 45 minutes for all three of us to do a little spiel. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
I gotta say that's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. Well.
All right, Randall. I think you're up. I mean, Balcones comes first in the alphabet after all.
It does. It does. It starts with a B. So I don't know if you guys have heard, and I'm talking to the crowd, not you guys. You guys have heard. So Balcones a couple of years ago was purchased by Diageo. Well, some news came around, and I don't know the exact date on this, so don't quote me on the date. But Diageo announced that it is temporarily halting distilling. And yes, I printed it out because I'm old school. It's temporary halting distilling and barrel filling operations at Balcones, along with 2 other sites. Now, through June of 2026. So we're talking 8 months, 10 months. At Balcones, about 17 production roles have been cut. They gone or paused. Diageo's official explanation, they are reevaluating productivity goals and note that we are ahead of schedule with volume that we produced at this site as of this year, thus choosing to pause operation rather than to continue at full throttle, which I'm going to pause right there real fast. I can understand, right? Because like back in the day, like a long time ago, there was distilling seasons, and that's where bottled and bond came in. You had the spring and whatever. Like there was distilling seasons where you didn't run 24/7, 365. You ran for a time, filled barrels, and then you were good. You went home and, tended to your family and stuff like that. So I get what they're getting at, but Diageo, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Diageo is all about that money, right? They're all about getting as much liquid out on the market as possible. And so for them to be like, beep, 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 pump the brakes on that, it just puts some red flags personally. And this is my opinion, of course, obviously. So take that for what it is. While producing and barrel filling were at pause, the visitor center remains open. So if you want to go take a tour, they're not making nothing, but you can go take a tour. This action ties into the border cost savings The efficiency program at Diageo mentioned it's worth $625 million, including slower output than other Diageo facilities. They do not appear to have public description on the permanent closure, just divestment of funding. So let me get through that funding cuts. Okay, so this will impact future releases, obviously. Investment in new capacity, research and development. It's going to affect all of that. But it's not, they didn't really talk about it publicly. And so it also kind of reflects what's going on in the market. And we're going to talk about this through all of these. It's inflation, which I hate that word, higher interest rates, cost to produce, like you were talking about grains earlier. It's harder to make the whiskey at the same cost. And before that, Diageo told them to no longer make bourbon. They are owned strictly American single malt, and they were making some rye as well, a little bit of rye, but they said no more bourbon. So they're pot still bourbon, which wasn't great, but and they were doing some really cool like blue corn and stuff like that. It's gone. They're not doing it anymore.
Can I interject?
Go ahead, please.
So I've interviewed Jared Himstedt earlier this year. It's the only interview I've ever done that had to go through an HR approval, and they want to do some cuts, but not because of editorial control or anything like that. So I'm exerting my editorial control now, but because there were questions they didn't want me to ask, and I asked anyway. And they're like, "Hey, we told you not to ask that. You asked anyway. You need to cut that." I'm like, "Okay, that's fair, right? You agreed to do the interview on the premise that I wouldn't ask about certain things." Right. And in the course of a conversation, those things came up anyway, because that's the way I do my interviews.
That's life.
That's perfectly fair. This is the first time as a whiskey journalist I've ever gotten a no comment when I wanted to ask, can you talk about the focus, like the refocusing the distillery on just American single malt, that you're not making these other products anymore? They didn't want to talk about that. It's public knowledge.
It is.
But, and I can see, like, in the context of like, hey, let's keep this American single malt interview focused on American single malt and not go off on those tangents. Like, there's a lot of reasons they might not have wanted to answer that question, but it's interesting to me, Diageo's being a little bit cagey about, like, for the most part. I mean, Diageo bought Balcones. Balcones was left alone for, like, to just continue doing its thing for a while. And they haven't changed a whole lot about the core products, but we've started to see Diageo's changing them up a bit. And like, okay, if your most successful product, your most iconic product, and we're talking about what's a portfolio filler for Diageo, okay, sure, focus on that. Halting, you've got more to say, but I have commentary.
I understand. So basically, what does this mean to you? The people out there in the world that are going to purchase said bottles, right? It's going to mean there's not going to be any new bottles coming out. Now they have some that they're, waiting. I'm sure they're still going to be, bottling some things because they're in barrels right now. So they have to, they're going to get over oaked or whatever, but you're going to have fewer expressions out on the market. And so now I will say, Balcones is everywhere, right? You can find it in Scotland and all the places. So it will be fine, but what's going to happen, it's going to dwindle. The people are going to buy it off the shelf and they won't be able to replenish it as well as they should. Obviously, they are a huge distillery making thousands of gallons of whiskey, so they will be fine, but the existing stock and special releases may remain available, but it's going to be up to the distillery for what they have. They do have distillery only exclusives. I went up there, and this is my tangent in it. I went up there a couple months ago, and I went in there and I tried to get a distillery exclusive, right? Because that's what we do, right? We go get the thing that nobody else can get. Yep. And it was the Décolores from last year.
Oh,
they had nothing new on the market. It was some random bottles they had laying around that they didn't sell, and it was $200 for this said bottle. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a great whiskey. It was great whiskey, but at the same time, it's like, is it really? So, yeah. Anyway, long-term capital plans are unclear, and there was nothing in the public announcement, obviously, and they are like you were saying earlier, they are kind of being hush hush with this, even though it's very public. So that to me makes me feel like, I'm not saying it's not going to come back, because Balcones is huge in Texas whiskey, not only Texas whiskey, but whiskey in general, right? There's people that just love some of their products, but I think there's a lot of people that don't like them as well, just because they feel like they're muddying up the waters too much. And so, yeah, so some of the releases that are publicly listed are their rye, their lineage, their single malt. They still have their corn whiskey out, but it's the remaining stock that's there. They had, cases of it left over. The Cataleja, they're supposed to come out with a Cataleja Part 2, which is 100% peated malt. We'll see if that comes out.
I have heard from a contact at the distillery that's on track. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
I think that's happening.
I feel like the core lines will be available. They will be marketed as that. The special releases are going to be harder and harder to get, like the Cataleja. It's going to be harder and harder to get. The French oak, the French oak that they had, it always sold out really fast anyway. Well, now
and that's a new release. It's a new SKU on the market, at least in terms of general access. I'd imagine they're going to keep it. So here's the thing. And I guess my key question here, because I haven't read this press release, I'm happy to not have to do the research on all of these news stories. Thank you. Halting production just means new liquid, right? New make.
Correct.
Right.
Because
that stuff.
But they're not blending.
Time didn't stop at the distillery. The barrels are still aging up,
right? But they're not blending. They laid off blenders. They laid off a lot of people in the production part of it, to where they're basically like, those barrels are just going to sit. Get out of here. Like when you get 17, I know Balcones is a huge distillery, but 17 people, that's a lot. That's a lot. A lot of people to get rid of.
I've been there in person and did a walk around in the offices, even with Jared. This was my first interview actually that I ever did. It was, I'll never forget, because it was 2 days after TTB announced their proposal for American Single Malt Whiskey. And I happened to be in Texas, and I sent Jared an email and I said, I'm working on this book. I want you to be my first interview. Will you show me around? And so that was my very first interview. I walked around the offices, and I think I saw a total of 8 people like in there on a single day. The stills weren't running at the time. I think it was, I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I think it was not a production day. So 17 people is mind boggling. Like where are those people? Like, I mean they've got to be different shifts and stuff. Right?
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I think it has to do with like people in marketing and all of the social media people, because they didn't really have a huge, brand reps and stuff like that. They didn't have a huge social presence. Like you knew them or you didn't. Like they don't really post a lot on Facebook and stuff like that. So it's I just see it as, and we're going to get into the other ones as well. I just see it as, there's everybody's been talking about it, like a whiskey glut, right? Where it's just kind of taking a turn. Not that it's going away, because whiskey's here. It's been here since forever, since Ethiopia or whatever, when they were doing it. So it's like, we'll be fine. But at the same time, it is taking a little bit of a glut to where like some of these things, like we don't need to make 8,000 barrels of one said whiskey. Let's just chill, let those sit. And then so I understand where Diageo is coming from on their front, but at the same time, they have 80 SKUs, 80 different companies that they own. Like, you're getting Halts from anybody else, just them. So I mean,
all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to drop my piece on this.
Please do.
I will never not be very open and about my disdain for the company that is Diageo.
Amen.
I cannot stand them. I think they do horrible things for the whiskey industry. I think they should be shut down, demolished, and everybody should be back to their own devices. That is my opinion on Diageo.
And it's not all companies the size of Diageo, because look at Remy and Westland.
It is Diageo and Diageo exclusively.
Absolutely.
And here's what I saw as far as track record, what I think is going to happen, and writing on the wall. When I heard what was that, 2 years ago? 2 years ago now, Diageo bought Balcones?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. So my first thought was, damn, Jared, what did you do? Like that was your baby. Like that was your baby. He came out publicly and said they're going to leave me creative control. I don't believe that for a second.
Absolutely
I don't believe it for a second. If you believe that and you really think that that's the way it is, maybe you contracted that. Awesome. And I hope that's the case, right? I hope that's the way that it went. Guess what happened? That's not the way it went. Because then Diageo says, don't make bourbon, don't make rye, don't make rum, don't make these weird things that you were making, i.e. rumble, fig spirits, whatever, whatever the case may be. Stop doing that.
And brimstone, which like it or hate it, there's not another product on the market like that.
That's correct. You're now making single malt, or you're making malt whiskey and malt whiskey only. Okay, so there's first step into you no longer have creative control.
Yep.
Right. Step number 2, Diageo shuts down production. Why does Diageo shut down production? So that they can make a scarcity. And now when they come back, the prices can be very elevated, as they have done with Oban, Lagavulin, and every other Scottish distillery that they own. Guess what else, those you can't get from any of those places? Hardly ever get a single cask out of any of the Diageo distilleries. But guess what they do every year? They release a distiller's edition that is no different or special or unique from any of their other releases. Maybe it's a year older. Maybe
a slightly different cask, or a little bit more sherry.
It's 5% higher on the ABV. But guess what? It's $60 more.
Yep.
Where do you think Balcones is headed?
Yeah. And that's
I saw this coming.
I'm
when
completely
they
with you.
I was really, really disappointed. And
I was really hoping this wouldn't happen. And
I
the
was
thing,
I was hopeful as well. However, it's just not the way that they work.
I think you're not wrong. I think the scarcity angle is definitely one to look at. I mean, whiskey prices are going up.
They are
because people are sitting on liquid, ages are going up, Angel share is taking its part, and there's less of the good stuff, and rents are going up everywhere. Wages are costs, supplies,
cost of operation is up. Right?
Yeah.
And that has to reflect in cost of product. It has to.
If your cost of goods sold keeps going up across all the money that you're paying, you have to increase your unit cost, your unit price, just in order to make payroll and keep doing what you're doing. So whiskey prices have to go up, and shrinkflation is one of the things that people say. Now, I don't buy into this argument. I think it's a specious and stupid argument to say, oh, VDC, I used to love them. They reduced their bottle size from 750 milliliters to 700 milliliters. Shrinkflation.
Get out of that. Get out of there with that bullshit
argument. Realistically, that move in and of itself, just that move alone, could potentially bring down prices because sales can go up worldwide.
Yeah. And the thing is, VDC did bring their prices down. All these new bottles.
Yes.
We talked about it earlier, 30, 35, 40, 45, $50. They're the lowest prices on the market. And okay, the fact that they reduced the size of the bottle by 50 milliliters, not actually, it's a cost savings measure, but it's not shrinkflation. What it is it's putting the same 700 milliliter bottle on the shelves in the United States and in Europe and any other market that they sell their whiskey to.
They're going to make one bottle, and one bottle
reduces their operating costs.
That's right.
That's how they're keeping prices down on these incredibly low price bottles, which, by the way, I mean, sort of like semi on record, semi off the record, like the $35 bottles in this series, they're not making basically any money on. Right. They are paper thin margins, because their goal behind those products is to bring people into the brand, give people a loss leader, an introduction to the brand, so that they can go buy the more expensive stuff later. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they can't sell it at a loss, because if that ends up being their most popular product, they lose money on every single one that they sell, and you can't run a business that way.
I mean, they've got a price where they're making at least $1 on it.
Right. Yeah. Right. They're making something.
At least. Yeah. However, the concept of get a bottle out there on the shelves that's affordable for everybody. Everybody can afford that bottle that's interested in buying whiskey, right? Because, I mean, realistically, what's the cheapest bourbon you're going to get out there? Still 30, and then I'm talking real bourbon, 45% or higher, right? I'm not talking about this rich and rare.
Well, okay. Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is my go-to pretty decent bourbon. What's that cost right now? It's about $18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It used to be 14, 15 5 years ago. Now it's like 18, 19. Okay. I can live with that.
So I guess way less than what I was assuming. I was assuming it was at $30. I don't know.
But if you're talking about craft bourbon, 30, 35 is the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just go with I was talking about craft bourbon then.
And I mean, like, and if as long as we're talking about American Single Malt, I mean, we as a set of people, we are all interested in craft whiskey above pretty much anything else, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to be craft whiskey,
100%.
or it's going to be Scotch made with care, things along those lines, right? Not the bottom shelfers. That's not the kind of thing that we're interested in. American Single Malt whiskey as a category has hardly any macro distilleries making product, and even the ones that are.
Oh, here you go.
Are selling it for $100.
Yeah.
Jack Daniel's Single Malt. This is the 1 liter, to be fair, but
yeah, it's a liter. It's travel exclusive. It's also not very good.
Right.
Yeah. And that's my biggest fear with
my opinion on that is I tried it actually I tried it last night. You gave me a sample off that bottle.
I did. That's right. Yeah, you were here.
Yeah. And because I have the heritage one that they released a few years ago, the special release,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I don't
very
think
bland. Very bland.
I think they threw it in a sherry cask to give it something because
Absolutely.
they weren't going to sell it the way it was.
Yep. I heard an interview on Whiskey Cast or something where they had an interview with someone who was making it, and they said, malted barley is a grain that needs some help. And I will never forget that because it pissed me off as a single malt lover. It pissed me off so much. And okay, maybe Jack Daniel's is never going to give me an interview because I crap all over them for this.
Right.
But they distilled a single malt like it's a bourbon on a column still, and they stripped out as much flavor as they could that way. And then they ran it through 20 feet of, or however many, 20 meters, 20 feet of maple charcoal. And they stripped out even more of the flavor. And then they threw it in some new oak, and they said, this doesn't taste like anything. And they said, oh, I guess this grain is a grain that needs some help. Let's throw it in a sherry cask. And as long as we throw it in a sherry cask and it's made of 100% malted barley, we can call it single malt because that's what they do in the crappy Scotch distilleries. It's like, come on, guys.
Listen,
you had so many places you could have made a tremendously good product and brought it to your fans, and instead you gave them the same thing, more expensive and worse.
Jack Daniel's is a company that will never go out of business.
Amen.
They have a following that is bigger than you can even imagine. Okay. And with all that said, the guy distilling at Jack Daniel's could have been in a meeting with the people who run the shit over at Jack Daniel's, and they could have said, hey, we want to do an American single malt because I'm starting to hear a buzz about it. It's becoming a little bit popular. Do an American single malt. If I was that distiller, that was me making Jack Daniel's for whatever amount of years this guy's been making Jack Daniel's, I'd have gone into my whatever, little black book, phone, Instagram, Facebook feed, whatever. I'd have gone, who's talking about what American single malts is everybody talking about? They're going to look at Stranahan's. They're going to look at Westland. They're going to look at Westward. They're going to look at Cedar Ridge. They're going to look at Balcones. I would have made a phone call.
Going.
I'd have made a phone call to each one of those places and talk to the master distiller at each one of those places. Like, hey, my bosses want me to make an American single malt. What the hell do I do?
Yep.
And he would have got 5 very different answers, but it would have equated to a much better product.
Absolutely.
And not one of those people,
really good
not
answers.
one of those people would have said, oh, you work for Jack Daniel's? No, I ain't talking to you.
Right.
Not one of them would have said that.
I mean, the sheer fact of just having the humility to reach out to Murphy Quint and say, like, hey, you make single malt, teach me how.
Yep.
Listen, it'd be the same deal if Murphy Quint reached out to the guy at Jack Daniels, say, hey, I want to make a charcoal filtered Tennessee style whiskey. Where do I start?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, well, hey, actually, though, but do you think that they
probably wouldn't have answered the question?
Yeah.
However,
like, I don't think it would be the same thing.
It would not.
I think it would have gone the same way. But I can guarantee you that all those people, and this goes for almost every American single malt distillery that is true to American single malt distillery, they would have answered that question. They would have been like, you know what? Listen, I'll be out there. I'll jump on a plane. I'll be out there in 2 days, and we'll go over this.
Yep.
Because every one of them, especially because this stuff came out before the ratification, every one of those people would have said that's only going to help American single malt. If Jack puts out a good American single malt, that will only help the category.
Right.
And I guarantee and that Jack Daniels been phenomenal.
Yeah, right? But even though it's frankly not, the fact that Jack Daniels put out an American single malt added to the buzz around the category, and everyone I know who's making American single malt thinks that it is a good thing for American single malt. However,
I agree with you.
There are others though.
Then you taste it and you go, that's what American single malt is from the best distillery in the country? No, I don't want anything to do with this.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a shame. If that's the way that you bounce off of American single malt because of Jack Daniels, that's a damn shame. But then there's the other ones though, because the Jack Daniels is tasteless in a lot. It's really in more than one way.
It's brown vodka.
It is brown vodka
with some sherry. You know, to be fair.
Some sherry. Yeah,
I think I gather they put it in a fairly decent sherry cask.
My guess is that was the cheapest sherry casks they could find.
All right, I know you tried it more recently than me.
Sherry cream.
Yeah, it's not like a great sherry cask, but it doesn't taste bad. It's not a bad sherry cask.
But here's
just
the thing.
Only tastes like sherry.
Then we got Yellowstone. They did the same thing, right? Yellowstone's pretty popular brand in the bourbon world. They made an American single malt. I thought that tasted like trash.
Right. And there's Claremont Steep, which tastes like actual rotten fish, like rotten crab meat. What are you doing?
Also not good.
The funny thing to me is I heard tasting notes from multiple people over the years, finally got a sample, didn't look at my notes from years ago, didn't remember what they said. I knew they said they didn't like it. I tasted it. I said, that tastes like a crab cake that's gone off. And then I went and checked those conversations. Like everybody got the same weird coppery dead fish note. What is going on? Claremont Steep from Jim Beam, by the way, another brand that had room to really grow the American single malt category and put out a whiskey that is beneath their own standards, right? Did they release it just because it's what they had and they wanted to release an American single malt? Because I think Beam knows how to put out a good whiskey, right? Say what you want about the macro distillery.
Yes.
They put out a good whiskey. They know what they're doing. Why did they release Claremont Steep? At least they released it under another brand.
Here's a hot take conspiracy theory for you.
Let's do it.
Maybe they all put out this trash to shut down the ASM category because they wanted to keep selling their bourbon.
Well, some of them really did want. Did you see the comments on the TTB proposal? Some of them were like, "It's not American whiskey if you don't put it in New Oak. New Oak has to be part of the category." Like these were comments
if you don't put it in New Oak.
Exactly. And there's other types of American whiskey. There's light whiskey, which actually I would say nobody drinks.
Light whiskey has to be used.
There's actually some, it has to be used oak, and there's actually some good light whiskey that's becoming more popular
every
now.
one of those distilleries makes a corn whiskey that goes into used oak.
Yep. Because what else you've got two options with your used bourbon barrels, because you can't make more bourbon. You either sell it to Scotch, and when there's no demand for that, you have to put some other whiskey in it, or you throw the barrel away.
Right.
Or you sell it as a planter.
Well, okay, so but be realistic. Let's see. Beam Suntory. They don't need to sell it. They just move it through the company.
Right. Well,
they don't. I mean, you can deal with it. They move it through the company. Jack Daniels, same deal. Move it through the company.
Internal sale. Yeah.
All that stuff. But I mean, why not? Hey, why don't we just keep it right here in house and refill it right after we empty it?
Yeah.
Why don't we make
and so why wouldn't they be happy to have another category that's recognized around the world as the world standard of what whiskey is? When you say whiskey outside the United States of America and Canada, people assume you mean single malt.
Yeah, Canada. Yeah, right.
That's just the default. And so why wouldn't you be happy to have something that is considered the default around the world in your massive global markets, and it gives you something to do with your used bourbon casks? And you already know you can sell it for more money too, right? It's value. It's a win-win. It's value add on top of value add.
Yeah, I don't know.
So okay, back on the Balcones. So strategic errors, I think, right? Okay, they're trying to manufacture scarcity. Okay, that's a reasonable. Yeah. That's a reasonable interpretation.
That's my take on it. I just believe that I've seen Diageo do that before. They come out on top somehow without people realizing what they did.
But on the other hand, you've got all these barrels sitting, losing, in the Texas heat, because those aren't climate controlled warehouses.
Nope.
Losing all this whiskey. You've got this whiskey that's ready to go into products. This isn't the same calculus that you would pull with a distillery in Scotland,
Absolutely
where you've got 20, 25 years and you're going to be fine. You could shut down operations for a few years, no problem. In Texas, you shut down operations for a few years, you're losing 25, 30% of your liquid
or more.
And you're never going to get back to that same blending flavor profile anymore. And then you've got a huge gap in your portfolio where for a while you're going to have whiskey that's older, that's going to go into products because it has to get released or it's going to be garbage. And then you're going to have a gap where all you've got left coming out of the stills, you've got whiskey that's less than 3 years old. And Jared's creative vision, I think one of the things that he would always have wanted to hold steady is he's not going to release any whiskey that's less than 3 years old.
Right.
Single malt. It's one of the things he told me was his vision. And I think when I interviewed him in 2022, they were achieving that. They were not releasing anything that was less than 36 months old in the single malt category. And I think if this production stoppage goes on long enough, I would say more than 6 months, they're going to have a problem. Amen. Because you're going to have, if you take a year off, you're going to have a gap where your whiskey suddenly gets like a year or two, let's say 2 years younger. Right? Just all of a sudden, you're going to run out of the older stuff, or you're going to have to start putting your younger whiskey in to bulk out your whiskey, and you're going to take a loss on your age statements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that is a huge strategic error when it comes to a product coming out of a state like Texas, where time is not on your side.
No, it's not.
And also, by the way, have you guys been to Balcones?
Yes.
So you've seen the stills. Those stills are massive. Like I think
they're gorgeous.
The macro distilleries in the United States are putting out more liquid. Yes. But I think Balcones, like I would have thought Westland would be on the same level, but Westland stills are noticeably smaller than Balcones stills. Balcones stills, I think, are the biggest pot stills in the United States. That's probably wrong. I would be ready to be wrong on that. But I mean, it's at least as far as I've seen, and definitely in single malt, I think that's true.
So I, while you were talking, I asked the pinnacle of knowledge, ChatGPT, about Claremont Steep, and it said the reason people don't like Claremont Steep is because of their Donna jugs. Do you know what Donna jugs are? Right?
No, that sounds like a dirty joke.
No, they're yeast capturing device that they've used the same yeast for like 200 years, right? They are not using single malt yeast. And I'm like, okay, brother, that is just a cop out in itself, right there.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, ChatGPT is going to synthesize the average of language that has been put out on the internet,
right?
And hallucinate you an answer that has anything to do with your topic. I tell you, I was like, oh, how can I use ChatGPT to make my podcast production go smoother? I'll ask ChatGPT a question. No, it doesn't know anything.
It doesn't know anything.
Like not to be conceited or anything, but like, there is more knowledge in this room than ChatGPT has access to about American single malt.
Well, because all it does is it scans, it just scans the internet for everything and then summarizes it. Well,
right. So it's basically saying that their yeast wasn't made for single malt. And I'm like, yeast, I understand, like, yeast is yeast and it's a thing, but so like
it should come out tasting like bourbon if that were true.
Yes, exactly. But it doesn't. It tastes like crap.
Crab cakes that have gone off.
Crap cakes.
I don't know.
All right. Should we move on?
we gotta move on. I mean, I think summarizing Balcones, we all agree the Diageo buyout was a bad idea.
Bad idea.
Diageo shutting down production is a bad idea.
It's the sort of thing that seemed like it was a good idea at the time, but we're seeing the cracks show now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think it was a bad idea at the beginning. I would have, if I was Jared at that time that Diageo approached me, I would have made a phone call over to Remy Cointreau and said, "Hey, listen, Diageo is interested. How interested are you?"
Yeah.
Well, we're interested,
and
we're interested
at that time.
Cool.
Remy already owned Westland, so at that time they had an established interest in the category of American single malt whiskey and an established track record. I mean, in terms of people politics at Westland, it hasn't been all sunny, right? There have been people who have left.
No, it's never always sunny. However,
but Westland is still doing Westland.
Yeah, Westland's still doing what they want to do at Westland, right? Westland, I mean, I was there a month ago, a month and a half ago. Tyler is making decisions, doing what he wants to do, doing what he thinks is best. And I got to tell you, I think he's doing a fantastic job. He told me some news that I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share or not, so I'm not going to share, but I'm not overly thrilled with that, but I'm excited to see what happens because of what's going to transpire.
That's interesting. I've got some people to go ask questions of, but I assume you're not talking about the segue, the theft of 12,000 bottles of Garryana 10, which is our second or third. Let's call it our second news story. Let's get into this one.
Listen,
it's a bad news, good news situation.
As much as everybody else, you will always hear me talking about how conspiracy, and I did the big companies do things on purpose to make things seem not the way they were. What happened with Buffalo Trace many years ago? It was a very popular topic called the Pappy Heist. Guess what happened to Pappy Van Winkle after the Pappy Heist? What did the news call this Westland theft? The Westland Heist.
Yeah. Well, everybody likes a good news headline.
As soon as they dubbed it the Westland Heist, I had this sneaking suspicion, and I hope to God. I mean, as far as like people I know that work at Westland, no, probably not. I think this was an inside job by random employees. They contacted somebody, said, "Hey, listen, we could pull this off. This would work." I don't think they have anything to do with the business side of things. I don't think they have anything to do with the production side of things. I think they are random employees that work at the warehouse and said, "Listen, you come in, you show some fake ass papers, you got a truck, we load you up, and off you go, and we'll figure out what to do with it later."
Yeah. So, disclaimer: this is Jerm's conspiracy theory.
This is a conspiracy theory.
I think there are merits. I have also heard another sort of conspiracy theory, which isn't opposed to your theory, was that this was done by preppers, right? Because the first thing. So okay, let's just establish what the story is. So 12,000 bottles were stolen on a truck with apparently legitimate papers that I mean, to whoever loaded the truck, the papers were legitimate. They loaded up a truck with a shipment of roughly half of the Garryana 10th anniversary edition, destined for the other half of the country, which is a reasonable thing to do because that's how you get to the other half of the country's distribution network. Right. So like my first question was like, who loaded up a truck with half of your entire stock of bottles and didn't think, that seems like a lot? And the answer was, actually, that's typically how we would do it. We would send half the bottles across the country because the distribution network's over there, right? Like there's the eastern half of the country and there's the western half of the country. You got to split it up and divide it somehow. So that's actually a reasonable thing to do. You would think there's a lot of scrutiny behind that size of an order. So the material loss to Westland was $1 million of retail, which is not the same as well, I mean, that was roughly the figure that was quoted. $1 million but I'm emphasizing retail as opposed to cost to produce, because we don't know what the cost to produce was. They haven't disclosed that number, but in terms of potential revenue lost to the company, $1 million lost. Police are still investigating what the actual cause is. It could have been by some random employees of the company. It could have been by, somebody who doesn't work at the company, who knows what the papers look like, who decided to forge an order and say, I could make off with $1 million worth of whiskey, sit on it in a bunker for a while, and then I don't know, sell it on the black market in Asia or whatever, because this is not going to be easy whiskey to sell.
You're not going to sell this in the States. As soon as you put one of these on, you're going to be red flagged. Yeah. I mean, because we all know that there's a secondary market. It's groups on Facebook. It's groups in Discord. It's this and that and the other thing.
Yeah. My advice to all those people: first of all, don't illegally sell your whiskey.
Everything is monitored. You all
just don't do that.
Yeah.
No. And when I say illegally sell your whiskey, I'm not talking about the stolen whiskey. I'm talking about the whiskey you bought for and decided you could flip for twice as much. Don't sell your whiskey illegally. It's illegal. If you're selling your whiskey if you don't have a license to sell whiskey and you're selling your whiskey, it's illegal. The only legal way to do it is to go to an auction and make a licensed auction sale.
Right.
It's the only legal way to do it. Now there's all kinds of ways, like you can give away your whiskey for free. And you could have friends who give you whiskey for free with no equivalent exchange, implied or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And that is a way that you can get rid of your whiskey. But if you're talking about going to a store and buying a whiskey while it's available and saying, this is going to be worth more later, I'm going to sell it. And if you're stupid enough to do that with a legitimately purchased bottle of Garryana 10, you are going to have a bad time, because the lasers are going to be focused on you, trying to figure out whether you bought that at the distillery or at a legal retailer, or you got that a stolen bottle. Yeah. And they probably know what laser codes were the stolen ones too.
I'm sure.
They do. They 100%.
So my advice would be, don't sell your whiskey to begin with, but absolutely do not even flirt with the idea of selling a bottle of Garryana 10. You are going to have a bad time.
If you purchased a bottle or purchase a bottle of Garryana 10, don't even hesitate. Before you even get home, open that thing up, make sure it's open so you cannot sell it.
Yeah.
Because if you even are tempted, you will get the hammer will come down. You will get investigated. Whether I mean, if you chucked your receipt, if you paid cash, you're going to have a hard time. Explaining.
Yep. Keep your receipt for sure. Yeah. This is like, most of the time, buy your whiskey, enjoy it. Don't worry about it. In this case, you really need to be careful.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, guys, against all odds, the Garryana 10th edition is still available for $150, which is the same as every other Garryana.
Every other outpost. And I thought that was a beautiful thing. I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite the loss, like, I mean, and I'm going to show it, because I mean, I was like, oh, they're going to have to increase it to at least $200. I hope it's not $300, $400 because of the loss, because it's 10 years old, because it's special.
Well, no. I figured immediately when I heard it was a 10-year for Garryana 10, I thought absolutely the price is going to be elevated from the regular output rate, right? And then when I saw that it wasn't, I was like, man, that's really cool. Then this happened. I'm like, okay, well, now the price is definitely going up.
And it didn't.
Okay, so and here's my thoughts on that. Insurance covered their loss here, or will cover their loss.
Right.
Right. My guess is they're going to figure out where their stuff went. They're going to get it back. It's going to hit the market again. Illegitimately, you know what I mean? I have this sneaking suspicion that this is not going to be missing for very long.
The level of organized crime that it would take to actually move this whiskey to a place where it could be sold for anybody's profit is probably far beyond what's actually happened here.
Right. Yeah, I don't. Aside from that, I don't. And this isn't a dig at Westland. This isn't a shot at Westland. I don't think that it's got enough pull to create that kind of demand.
Yeah, that too.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, so if somebody pulled up to the Buffalo Trace warehouse with it and did the same deal with something that people freak out about, right?
Yeah,
maybe. Okay, maybe. Macallan, maybe, right? Dalmore, maybe. Westland, as much as I love Westland, and I think they make one of the best single malts in America, and they're fantastic whiskey and they're fantastic people, they don't have that yet. They're not there yet. So, you know, you're not going on the black, you know, you're not like, man, I want to look and see if that any of that Westland's on the black market yet. No, nobody's doing that.
Right.
Yeah, not enough people, anyways.
So before we move on, I just want to say, first of all, this past weekend, they did in fact launch Garryana 10. It was a huge party. I think the biggest party I've ever seen at Westland so far, and that's saying something because they do a good party. But they had lines. They had a multi-decker, not like multi-decker, but like multi-tiered line outside the distillery for people waiting to get in.
Excellent.
With 12,000 bottles, I don't think that they were in any danger of running out. But if you're thinking about buying this, I would do it soon. Because usually Garryana lasts, like, you know, whatever edition of Garryana lasts a year, and then they have a long tail of like, oh, we've got a few cases left for like maybe another year after that. I wouldn't expect this one to last, you know, first of all, they have half as much, but I wouldn't expect it to last 6 months. I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't count on it being there in 3 months. If you want it, buy it now. That's my advice on that. And congratulations to Westland. I'm sorry to hear the bad news, but this is a huge milestone. Lost Lantern did you a solid by not releasing the Westland that they had as 10 years, and they released it a couple days or a day early at 9.99 years. Great whiskey, also, by the way.
Yes.
But this is not only the first time that Westland has released a double-digit age statement; it's the first time they've put an age statement on the bottle. Every other time before now, that was backdoors knowledge, right? They would tell you how old it was, but it wasn't on the TTB label approval. So this is the first time you've got
or it was an indie bottler.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a few of those. Single Cask Nation, Lost Lantern, and American Single Cask have all put out age statement.
And Raising Glasses.
Oh yeah, I forgot they're an independent bottler. For some reason, I thought that was a Tater sticker, like in the back of my head. But anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah,
they have good bottles though. I have 3 Westlands from them. Really good stuff.
Realistically, yeah. Buy the 10 year. If you were even thinking about it, just do it. Just buy it. Legitimately, please.
Yeah. If it was 200, 300, I was on the fence waiting to see what the price would be.
At that price, I was on the fence.
At $150 still.
I mean,
absolutely.
And to just add to that, I'm in on this one because of what it is. I don't buy the Garryana Outpost range. I bought 5, same. I bought 6, and I don't buy I haven't bought any more.
Yeah, same. 6th edition.
I
thought
buy all
was
the
great.
Claret. I buy all the Solum. I skip the Garryana. This one, however, I do not.
We're on our Westland story, and I meant to pour this. I picked up Solum 3rd edition a couple weeks ago.
I had the single cask pan fill. I think this is the Alba Bar. Yeah, the 8-year-old Alba Bar.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
Oh my god, is it good?
Which is it's Calleri 1st edition cask strength single barrel.
Yes,
8 years.
And 8 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So Solum 3rd edition. I've tasted this one at the distillery, but I've never tasted it side by side with 1st edition and 2nd edition. To date, 1st edition has been my favorite. I thought 2nd edition had too much new oak in it. And I don't know what the breakdown is of the 3rd edition, but I'm really interested in seeing all 3 of them side by side. Not tonight, but sometime.
I haven't picked up the 3rd edition yet. Oops.
It's so. This is among the most Scotch-like American single malt, the Solum series. It's just so soft and creamy.
I agree. You know, for those of you who do really, really enjoy Scotch and you're struggling to find American single malts that tickle your fancy, I find Solum and Calleri both to be very, very reminiscent of Bruichlotti's Isla Barley and Port Charlotte Isla Barleys.
Yep. And Solum is the only one that's $150 still. They brought the price down on the Calleri and the Solum. They're actually both $125 a bottle now.
Oh,
so they're an even better deal than they've ever been. And this is in a world where most whiskey prices are going up.
Amen.
So, but yeah, so congratulations to Westland. Huge release. Sorry to hear the news. I really hope that they recover.
I think
lost bottles.
I think they'll be all right.
Let us move on to our 3rd and final story, which is so I would say the Westland was a little bit of bad news, good news. But I think the next one, which is Westward, is all good news. So I've been talking about this on the internet ever since it happened. Back in April, Westward filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, or as I like to call it, I don't think this is the official term, but I like to call it Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, because Chapter 11 bankruptcy is not Chapter 8 bankruptcy, which is you're going out of business, dude.
They gone.
Chapter 11 bankruptcy is saying, okay, we're in a financially vulnerable state and we need to make some moves to fix it. And in order to do that, we need protection from going under while we're fixing it. And this is going to be debt restructuring. This is going to be asset restructuring, buybacks, private sale of equity, business plan changes, distribution changes. These are all the things that Westward was talking about. And there's been a lot of press releases about it. I have the press releases and what I'm allowed to say. I've been getting sort of the inside communications. The original, okay, we filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The need for this restructuring, this is the press release from April. The need for this restructuring is driven by numerous challenges that have put a significant strain on our business, a decline in demand for bottled spirits in general, which is the whole category, not just American Single Malts, just everything. The rising cost of goods and services. This is everything we've been talking about today, right? It's a hard market right now. This isn't news, right? As far as Westward is concerned, this was just same old, right? The rising cost of goods, the tariffs, the market access constraints, and this is talking about direct to consumer doesn't exist, right? Large obligations that we entered into. So these are talking about like foreign contracts in foreign markets. Westward likes to talk about how they're very popular in Taiwan. Talking to my friends in Taiwan, that doesn't quite seem to be as true as the PR would have you believe. Like, yes, it's probably one of the most popular American single malts, but in terms of volume of product, most people in Taiwan are going to drink Cavalan, or they're going to drink Scotch, or they're going to be drinking something else cheaper and closer to home. And not that Westward is a super expensive whiskey, but it's not cheap either.
Right.
So there are a few things, here's reading between the lines. There are a few things that were going really well for Westward. One of them is their quarterly club, where they release, several thousand bottles of a special release, something like a cognac cask, Sauterne, Tokai. We talked about those earlier. It's always an interesting, different thing. And I every quarter I'm like, I think I'm going to skip this one. And then they announce what it is. And I'm like, I can't skip that one. That's too cool. And when I actually taste them, some of them are like, okay, the thing that you said about it was cool, but it actually, in terms of delivery, it didn't taste different enough to warrant having yet another bottle on my shelf. And I do love Westward. And actually I love that I have so many bottles, because if I want a whiskey and I'm not worried about like, do I need to think about this? Can I just pour something that I'm going to enjoy? Because of the club, and they're all $100 and free shipping, right? So like we're talking about a fairly average cost of American single malt, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
maybe a little high, but not.
It's a little on the high.
It's close. It's close.
When you consider the fact there's no shipping, and there's no and it's Oregon taxes that you're paying as opposed to your home market taxes, which for me is significant, because in Washington I pay 20.5 plus $3. It's crazy here. So like if I wanted to buy a Westward on the shelf in a Total Wine here, and it's going to cost me $100, it's going to be $130 out the door. Cool. So the fact that I get it for like 108 after taxes is great. Yeah. So I'm very happy about that. And this is whiskey that I can reach for anytime, right? Their quarterly club, they keep those customers engaged. They know that those customers are going to be moving a certain quantity of product on a regular basis, and they can cater to those customers. And that is a huge money-making part of their business. The domestic market is really good for them. Things that weren't working, they haven't said this much. I think probably the foreign markets were not working as well as they wanted them to. It was sort of an open secret that Diageo actually owned a near majority of Westward indirectly. And so investments like that, they were knocking on the door of being owned by big equity. And they were also there's a controlling interest of like, what decisions are you making as a company? We'd like you to move more in this direction of homogenizing your product line instead of making it more craft and diverse. Whereas what Westward really wants to do is they're a essentially macro sized craft distillery. They've got a craft mindset but their market is macro. Even if their like number of units sold isn't as big as Beam,
right,
or whoever, right. They are a large distillery and they make a lot of juice.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they were doing here is saying, okay, we've got all this stuff that's not really working for us, and it's putting us in a financially vulnerable spot. We're stretched really thin. We've got these investors breathing down our necks because they want certain goals that don't necessarily align with our goals. So what happened in effect, so here's the actual news. They've graduated from Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This is great news, right?
Yes, they're out of Chapter 11.
They're out of Chapter 11. They're independent and standing on their own 2 feet again. They've restructured their debts. They've got a new business plan. They've got new ownership and new private investors, and some interesting tidbits here. So of course, Tom Mooney, the CEO, will remain at the helm. He's an interesting fellow. I've talked to him at length at ACSA, but he doesn't really do media very often. He did go on Single Cask Nation when they did their big party for American Single Malt being ratified. So he's on that call. He doesn't say much, but he's there. So if you want to like see what he looks like, and he does participate. And he went on Whiskey Cast and made a statement when their Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing went in. So he's been involved in a way that he usually takes a big step back from media. He's been involved in this because this is serious business for the company, right? Chapter 11 is not a day in the park.
No, it's not.
It's just not as bad as people thought it was going to be, right? Bankruptcy sounds really bad. No, it's okay. And they had a really good plan for it. So Tom Mooney stays the CEO. And it's also worth noting that even in the global downturn, Westward has seen solid growth in 2025. Through the end of September, Westward sales grew by 53% versus the same period in 2024. And they surpassed their total sales for the entire 2024 calendar year in 2025 already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So in this market, and with all of the headwinds that Westward has been facing, they've managed to actually increase not just their profits or whatever, not like the figure of like what's your costs versus what's your sold. Their sales have increased. So it's not just that they've reduced costs and decreased their vulnerability financially. They've actually just sold more.
They've moved more units.
Yeah. And this is fantastic news. Everybody saw doom and gloom, and from the very beginning I said, guys, this is going to be fine. Wait and see. It's not as bad as you thought. And I'm so glad to see that they've come out the other side, because they've got some fantastic stuff. I wasn't super sold on Milestone Edition 1, I'll tell you, but Milestone Edition 2 is actually really, really good stuff. It's a little bit funky. It probably has Amberana in it. You can kind of taste that flavor profile. But it's got some nice flavor notes for me. And Miles is always trying to do something different with this whiskey. So
yeah.
It's not like, oh, we released a 300. I was not sold on the first edition because it was $300, I think, or $250.
It was two something, yeah.
And it was basically rock bottom 43% whiskey. Yeah. I'm like, okay, proof down, price up, weird. It kind of tasted a little bit flat to me.
There was Amberana in that one for sure.
Okay. The second edition. And they've released a third edition, by the way, now, or they're releasing a third edition now.
It's on its way. Yeah.
So this is not that. I have the second edition. It's 48.5%. It's got a really dynamic character to it. It's not a flat, smooth. Which
one did I try when I was with you?
This one. This is the only one I have.
Okay, so I immediately took a smell and I said, "There's Amberana in this."
Yeah, they didn't publicize that. They didn't publicize that, but if you know what Amberana tastes like, it's probably in there.
It's distinct for sure.
It's scary.
Anyway, it's just a shade, which is the right amount. I don't know what the third edition tastes like yet, but I'm really excited to try it, because the fact that the first and the second were so different, and they have their independence back, and Miles is really committed to making all those things, making it a unique expression. A unique luxury expression of Westward that really leads up to the name. I mean, Milestone is like quintessential. It's named after Miles. Right. But it's also it's an apt name. Milestone, they're really showing like all the extra casks that they didn't put out with the with the Westward Club releases. All the cool stuff that, they had extra of or whatever, and just blended together with so much care and slow proofed. to the point where like it doesn't have any sharp edges, and that's really nice about it.
Yep.
So if Westward was ever going to go in the direction of a luxury Scotch, this is going in the right direction. But if you don't like Amberana, skip this bottle. However, I would check out 3rd edition. I think it's going in a really interesting direction as a distillery, as a product. I'm really excited to try it. You'll get my review at some point. So if you want to wait for my review, they're all pre-sold anyway. So like,
yeah,
you already missed out.
Okay. So we covered a couple things on news. And so we covered Diageo buying Balcones, shutting down operations at Balcones. We covered the heist at Westland for a bottle that was highly anticipated by fans, right? Westland doing the good thing and keeping it priced the same despite losing half of what they had. That's awesome. Chapter 11 bankruptcy for Westward. They're making progress. They're already doing really, really well. It was the right move for them, and they came out smelling like roses on the other side.
Yeah.
So all good things. The one thing that I like about us three getting together and talking about this, for years prior to ratification, it was American Single Malt. Let's talk about American Single Malt. American Single Malt. American Single Malt. Ratification happened, and I feel like we went, okay, that happened. We can take a break now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I feel it too.
I think we can't take a break because what I see stores with very few American Single Malts on the shelf.
Absolutely.
Not because they're selling, because they're not wanting to put them there.
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of them are clearancing them and they're dropping those.
And when they do put them there, they sit there and they collect dust. And then 8 months later, they go, well, this is going to my clearance rack just to, I'm going to move it out at cost or
get rid of it.
To get rid of it. That I feel is such, it's almost criminal. Like, guys, try the stuff, get out there. I mean, it's not that big scary thing that you think it might be.
No.
Explore a little bit. Maybe you will, maybe you won't like it, but it's not going to hurt you. No. It's not going to come up and bite you. And chances are you do like it. It is actually really good. So
and listen to people like us, because we've tried a lot of stuff. Some of it's not good. A lot of it is good. And we will be able to recommend you something based on what you like.
I will be the first one to tell you there is a lot of not good American Single Malts out there.
Amen.
And even from craft distilleries. I will praise craft distilleries all the time, and I will never fault somebody for being young. However, there is some that probably shouldn't be out there yet, and we don't need to name them. It's just,
but
not everybody.
When there is a young person on, when there's a young whiskey, American Single Malt whiskey on the market that is actually like unexpectedly good, we should also be talking about that. I wouldn't be afraid of young whiskey.
No,
I would be afraid.
It's not a fault.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say afraid. I would be cautious if there's a brand you haven't heard of. And not for the same reason as rye, where it's like, oh, if you haven't heard of it, it's probably MGP and it's probably going to taste the same. That's not the reason to be cautious. The reason to be cautious is there's at least 250 or ish American Single Malts on the market. There's a bunch of brands now that are making, really young American Single Malt because the category has been ratified and they've made other whiskey before and they just want to have a product out. It's not necessarily the best thing ever. So if you haven't heard of a brand, be cautious, but seek information, right? Chances are one of the three of us or many of the other people on Instagram or podcasters have actually tried some of these whiskeys. You'll be able to find some information. I think I have reasons, obviously, right? We just had a kid. So like I've been a little bit off the radar. I'm trying to do the podcast and that's it. But I actually want to renew my commitment to writing written reviews of whiskey, because for pretty much since I started the podcast, it's been mostly, verbal, unscored whiskey reviews. And those aren't necessarily accessible for people who want to learn about whiskey. I'm going to try to recommitting to writing my reviews down, because I think that's how people find the information that they're actually looking for. not by like listening to a 2-hour long podcast and hoping that they're going to learn something about, should I buy this bottle, right? You're standing in a liquor store, you're holding the bottle, and you search on Reddit, has anyone had this whiskey before? And you hope to turn up a review. Right. That's at least that's how I shop for whiskey. And so I would like to be part of providing that. That's why I got into reviewing whiskey in the first place. That predated the podcast. But guys, we haven't made a good listicle in a minute. Let's just list some brands that are really good right now. We've listed a few, right? Obviously, Balcones, Westland, Westward. We like all of those.
Okay.
And Andalusia's underrated.
The three that we talked about tonight in length, yes, excellent. McCarthy's.
You know, got a whole feature shelf of McCarthy's.
McCarthy's is the original American single malt.
It's the first to market.
Generally very hard to beat an original at something, right?
Yeah. Amen.
If you don't like peated whiskey, McCarthy's is not going to be for you.
No.
Yeah. However, they are fantastic.
Unapologetically peated, that's for sure.
It is. And yes, it's 100% excellent. St. George right behind them with the number 2 spot in the second American single malt that came out. Lance Winters does some amazing.
Is that official? Have they like figured out that they were actually the second, or was it just
so St. George and McCarthy's work together, like helping each other out, doing things, right?
But it was a lot of it was not American single malt though. It was like
brandies and this and that and the other thing, right? Steve got his out in 96. Lance Winters started at St. George right around that same time. So they would have come out shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Because he came to St. George talking about, let's make single malt whiskey. Like his resume was literally a bottle of whiskey that he made at home.
Nice. Yeah. So, wasn't that Moose's story too?
Yes.
I think Moose's story is very similar. Yes.
Yes.
Andalusia, underrated as hell.
Absolutely.
Some of the best stuff you're going to get as far as American single malt goes, and it even comes from Texas. So
yeah.
Minden Mill. Minden Mill is very good.
Yep. Now the master distiller of Minden Mill is the former master distiller of McCarthy's, so you know that brand is in good hands. It's a very good American single malt.
Absolutely.
And not peated. So
not peated.
Right.
Not peated. So if the P word scares you, Minden Mill is a chance to get something very, very good.
Yep.
VDC, Virginia Distilling Company.
Yes.
Anything, and realistically anything. Get their bourbon cask, get their sherry cask, get their cuvee cask, get some of these special brewer coalitions.
Yep.
Get the port, the cider, the
Pameo.
Any of it is fantastic whiskey.
It really is.
So and if you want the cheap stuff, which is still good, right? Cheap, not bad quality, good value. Then you get the VDC or the Brewers Coalition. If you want to step it up from there, you get the Courage and Conviction line, which is the first product line that they brought to market. It is more expensive. It's around $100. It's also kind of a low proof, so like not necessarily for me personally, but it is a very soft round profile. So like that's for somebody. We're talking again about like, is there American single malt that approaches Scotch like quality? The Courage and Conviction is getting there.
So Doug's talking about Courage and Conviction. So this is a Virginia Distilling. The bottle will look like this. Nice shaped bottle, thin label. Okay. Brewers Coalition, slightly different bottle. Pretty label, says Brewers Coalition right on it. And then there is the VDC line, the cheaper entry level line. Let's call it that. It's an entry
cider
level.
Cask is my favorite.
This one's cider cask.
Good.
There's a Blue Ridge. There is a port cask that I know of,
and a Chardonnay, and the Chardonnay is my other favorite.
What you cannot talk about?
Sorry, not Chardonnay, Cabernet.
Cabernet. You cannot talk about top American single malts in this country. Well, I guess they'd have to be in this country if they're American single malts. If you don't mention Cedar Ridge.
Amen.
Yeah.
Cedar Ridge, probably one of the best of the best.
If I didn't have such a soft spot for McCarthy's, I would say Cedar Ridge is the best.
Here's my hot take on Cedar Ridge. I love Cedar Ridge. I will never praise Cedar Ridge. I am not the biggest fan of his special releases.
Interesting. I think the special
Murphy's
releases are better than the standard ones.
okay. So Murphy's thing with the special releases, the black labels, right? That's a heavy blending finish product, right? There's lots of finishing casts, there's lots of blending, there's lots of
Right.
Yep. It gets too heavy for me. I love his single cast. Like this is my peated malt in a whatever
yeah,
barrel.
so we are talking about the same thing. The single casts are the best. The special releases are a little heavy-handed. The standard 86 proof
special release will have a name and a black label. Single cast will be a white label with a silver bar on the bottom.
Yep. And then they have the standard Solera.
And then there's regular 92. Yeah.
Yeah, the 92 proof, not 86. Yeah, the 92 proof one. For me, I think I still want to have one just so I can have it. But if you're only going to get one bottle from Cedar Ridge, get a single cask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this, though. There is no going wrong with the regular 92.
No.
That's a beautiful whiskey.
No, not at all.
Always have it on hand.
But if you had a menu of all of them, the best value is the single cask.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So
let's see. Stranahan's. You can't skip Stranahan's.
Stranahan's is very, very good. Del Bach, excellent. Santa Fe, Colkegan.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, let's so sorry, just punch the mic. Let's talk about Stranahan's as like who is that for? Stranahan's is all new oak. They do a little bit of finishing, but their core product line is new oak, and it's made in Colorado. So something about that elevation makes the oak extractives a little bit less aggressive, but it appeals to people who like single malt and people who like bourbon because it's new oak, but it's not too overpowering.
Right. Yes. I would
Stranahan's
say
does very well.
Great.
I think by units sold, Stranahan's is actually the most successful American single malt. And one major reason for that is a lot of the sales work that they do, they don't even mention it's single malt. This is just a good whiskey. A lot of people assume it's a bourbon. It does well in their home market. It does well everywhere else. Stranahan's just has good branding around it. They're like sort of ski resort themed. I think that appeals to a certain people who've got the money to buy American single malt. They're doing very well.
Yep.
Now, if I had one criticism of them, it would be I really wish they would put something in a used cask.
Oh my God, yes.
And let it sit for a while.
Yeah.
You know, they do release a lot of like 3 to 5 year old whiskey, and it's great, but I'd like to see a little bit more maturity on it, I guess.
They do have a 10-year, and it's surprisingly not overpowered. But I did a cask thief of a 14-year in not a cask. I think a cask thief is a series they have. I went to their barrel room. I took a pull from a 14-year-old barrel. It was over oaked. Not all their 14. I'm told not all their 14-year-olds are over oaked, but that particular barrel that gets a lot of traffic from the tours that walk by. It's always like, you could try that, but it's over oaked. So just so you know, like, so they knew.
Right.
So yeah. And I think Stranahan's is the easiest bridge between bourbon lovers and trying an American single malt. That's the easiest bridge to go on.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. One brand that I want to talk about, and it's not one specific brand. Wherever you live in this country, there is a distillery somewhere near you, right? Go there. Ask them, are you making a single malt whiskey? Are you trying this? Are you playing with it? Are you doing anything with that? And drive around, see if you got other distilleries. This particular one I'm going to drink right now to cheers our show on the way out. It's Copper Crow.
Oh, cool.
Never heard of it.
You will never hear of it. This is a distillery in Bayfield, Wisconsin. That is a tiny little town at the very north end of the state. Is it the best thing I've ever tasted? No, absolutely not. Is it very, very good for what this operation is? Yes. I think they're doing a fantastic job. They also make bourbon. They also make rum. They also make vodka. They make gins. They make an amaretto that's actually really, really good. So these small, what I'm getting at is these small little independent craft distillers that put their heart and soul, everything that they've ever worked for in their life goes into this distillery at some point in time in their life. This is their passion project. This is their life. This is their livelihood. Go check them out. Go support them. Maybe it's great. Maybe it's not. But at least give them a shot.
Yep.
Let's see. I grabbed Oak and Grist, the Lost Lantern Oak and Grist, because I have not bought an OB bottling of them. Unfortunately, I wanted to support them when they got hit by the hurricane or the floods or both. This is really delicious whiskey, and they fly under the radar, and they shouldn't. More people need to know about them. I'm really glad that Lost Lantern is getting them on the market. Is getting some more attention on them. We're talking about like what American Single Malts approach Scotch. I would say this is one of the most Scotch-like American Single Malts, and every one of their bottlings is definitely along those lines. So that's a nice local small. You could support them. You can buy them through Lost Lantern.
You can buy them on their website.
You can buy them on their website. That's right.
They ship to a lot of states.
Yeah, and they ship to me. I just never got around to buying them, and I feel bad about that. They're really good. I'm going to buy more. If anything, this is not resolved my craving for them. It's made me want to go.
Absolutely.
Go buy more.
That is an absolute.
Yeah. Let's see. Copperworks. You can't forget Copperworks. They're one of the OGs. Hinterhaus.
Yep.
Hinterhaus. Yep.
They're doing really cool stuff. Open top fermentation, so their whiskey always tastes a little bit different, just whatever's going on in the air. So that's pretty cool. Boulder. We can't forget Boulder. Boulder's incredible, and it's all like $65 a bottle, which is just an incredible value.
I'm curious as to see where Boulder goes in the next few years.
Yep.
Losing Ryan Negley. I don't know. I don't know as a distillery owner how you let that happen, because Ryan made great whiskey. Like, how do you let that happen? I don't know what happened.
It was, as far as I understand, it was a layoff, and I don't know why.
Okay.
Could have been business related.
I had a thought,
and
I don't, like I said, I don't know. I haven't talked to Vapor or Ryan about it. I had a thought that they had an idea to go somewhere, and it wasn't where Ryan wanted to go, and it was just a difference of opinions and difference of what was wanted, and it was more of a mutual split than it was anything else. But I don't know. I don't know that
kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
I have talked to Alistair, the founder and owner, and I guess current head distiller there. Really interesting fellow. I mean, I would say, hey, we're all here to plug our own podcasts in a way, right? So, hey, go check out my podcast, all these brands that we've talked about. I wish I could say that I've actually had interviews with all these brands, but like I have some glaring omissions in my lineup. I know these people. I know lots of people at Stranahan's. I know people at Balcones. I know people at Westland. In fact, I've done interviews with all of those people, and because I stepped outside of my comfort zone and did an interview in person and then didn't know what to do with that. Those interviews have languished on my editor and have never gotten released. So we're going to have to fix that at some point. We're going to record new interviews or whatever it takes. We're going to get there. But yeah, I would love to have said that all these brands that we've mentioned I've had on my podcast. That unfortunately is not quite true, which means there's still more work to do.
There's room to go.
There is.
So this episode is going to go out on all of our feeds, I believe is the way that we're going to do it. We're not sure exactly how this series is going to play yet. So let us know if you have thoughts about whether you'd like this to be a series that's its own podcast, or you'd like to just see this on its own YouTube channel. You'd like to see this and just like let it be on our feeds, whatever. Let us know if you have thoughts. We're going to probably just figure it out on our own. But as long as we're talking about it. So I'm Single Malt Frontier. It's at Single Malt Frontier on Instagram or YouTube. Randall is the Whiskey Shaman. Where can they find you?
Everywhere. I have a podcast. I'm on YouTube. Everywhere. The Whiskey Shaman. So
the Whiskey Shaman. And Jerm at Freedom Malts, both on YouTube and Instagram. That's the only two places you're going to find me. Please, though, drop by the YouTube channel. Check out the Blind Sample Showdown. It happens on Wednesdays and Thursdays right now, but for the most part, it's Wednesdays. Round one goes through 2 days a week because I need to speed it up a little bit. But yeah, just as it sounds, Blind Sample Showdown. It's a bracket style race to the end.
It's a lot of fun.
Randall and I met each other through that. It's a good
and guys, I give away my whiskey. So I mean, you get free whiskey.
It's a win-win.
Jerm is living what we always say, right? Open your bottles, share your bottles. Jerm has figured out how to do it with 500 bottles of whiskey.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely. All right. I'm hoping that we can do this once a month. That's the goal here, guys, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to do a 2-hour podcast every month. I don't think we have 2
I
hours.
hope not.
No, we're going to have to figure out a way to squeeze it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doug. Doug.
So as our inaugural podcast here, yes, this one was a little bit long. There were some intros to people. Now you know who we are. We don't need to do that anymore. We can kind of trim down the fat a little bit, so to speak.
Get into the meat and taters.
Yeah. And there's going to be opinions, there's going to be hot takes, there's going to be conspiracy theories, there's going to be good whiskey. It's going to be an all-out great show.
Absolutely.
I think this is if you're interested in learning about American Single Malt, this might be the fun one.
Yep.
Hope so.
That's the hope. Yeah. So let us know what you think you want to see on that show. Actually, I think we're probably just going to say, hey, what's caught our attention since a month ago? That's a great place to start. So that's what we're going to look at for the next one. And I have nothing else left on my agenda, so I'm ready to cheers out.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So what's our toast going to be? We got to figure that out.
Well, Randall keeps the spirits up. I'm cheers to this American spirit.
Yeah, and I say until next time, we'll see you in the lodge.
So we'll see you in the lodge while you keep your spirits up to this American spirit.
Sure.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.
Fuck. All right. Love you guys. Cheers.
Love you. Holy crap.